Hello guys and gals, and welcome back to another episode of Shit Pastas. Yes, it's that time of the month again, like every month. The time where we take a look at two shit pastas and look at them, see what we can fix, and, genuinely have a good time, That's where we're at here. But the two shit pastas that we have this time are StreetPass Genocide and I Hate M. Rossi. One of them, StreetPass Genocide, is a 3DS creepypasta, and I Hate M. Rossi is a Forza Motorsport creepypasta. Yes, the stakes have been set, the bar has been raised, so let's see what these shitpastas have to contain. The first one we'll start off with is I Hate M. Rossi. The one thing that I've always found comforting in racing games is that no matter how hard you crash, you never die. I remember being anxious whenever I heard car accidents on the news as a little kid. I became so aware of the real-life ramifications that I decided to try and escape from all of it by delving into a fantasy of the racing genre. I've been playing racing games for so many years, it's hard for me to keep track nowadays. Ever since my childhood, I've always been very competitive when it comes to them. I remember winning almost every race against my younger brother when we used to own Gran Turismo on our original PlayStation. That was until my parents gave me an Xbox a few years earlier, and my PlayStation 1 had to meet its unfortunate demise to the antiques closet. Despite this, I got used to the Xbox and started getting into Forza Motorsport. Although it wasn't Gran Turismo, I still fell in love with it very quickly. I got an Xbox 360 a couple of years later, and even still I've been playing Forza to this very day. While playing Forza Motorsport 3, there was one computer player that went beyond pissing me off, Marco Rossi. No wonder he came in first place while driving like a complete asshole. On many occasions, he rammed the side of his car into my back wheel as I was trying to make an incoming pass, not to mention the number of times he's done this at the start of a race. Then, Forza 4 came, and that bastard was doing the same shit to me as before. It got old instantaneously, and my hatred for Rossi grew to the point where I started giving him a taste of his own medicine, even though it wasn't in my nature to race aggressively. Eventually, I started to become more aggressive with my driving behavior as the difficulty of my opponents in Forza became a little more taxing, especially on the Silverstone circuit. It wasn't long until Forza Horizon was released, and even though I didn't follow the same formula as its predecessors, it was a breath of fresh air nonetheless. It's been a while since I've actually played a decent free-roaming racing game. I did the usual. I completed the festival events, did all the showcases, PR stunts, street races, used an online walkthrough to knock down all the discount signs and discovered all the roads. On the final showdown with Darius Flint, it took me several retries of that tedious Goliath endurance race just to defeat that pain in the ass. Afterwards, I started playing multiplayer, and one day, as I was waiting in one of the custom game lobbies with several others, I overheard somebody in the lobby say, "Yeah, Darius Flint's the douche, yeah, but at least we don't have to put up with that fucking M. Rossi. That guy can't drive for shit." I joined into the conversation and shared with the other users my contempt towards the AI players. He told me he hated M. Rossi so much that he even joined a car club dedicated to his hatred. Since I wasn't in a car club of my own yet, I was curious to join, so I took the offer and became a new member of the conveniently named I Hate M. Rossi Car Club. A few days later, I started up single player as usual, and I noticed that there was a festival event that was left unchecked. Initially, this didn't make any sense, since I didn't notice that before I unlocked an achievement for completing all the festival races, including the showdown with Darius Flint. I went to the event and my worst nightmare was revealed. My rival was Marco Rossi. At first, I couldn't believe this was happening, so I created a party chat network with one of my friends from the I Hate M. Rossi club and told him about my discovery. He checked his internet to see if anybody had discovered this Easter egg before, but found no results. Because of this, he simply came back telling me that I was joking around with him, and that I was conjuring up an urban legend, much like the Golden Warthog Easter egg from Halo 2. I even checked the internet myself and discovered that there were no references to an M. Rossi Easter egg. At this point, I thought to myself that maybe I must have done something to unlock it that nobody else has done before, like a secret combination that I accidentally cracked without even knowing. Despite this, I pressed on to race against my ultimate rival. He was armed with a heavily modified Ferrari FXX, while I took on one of my best performance cars in the game, the Koenigsegg CCXR. The track was the dreaded Goliath, with the only difference being the time period set to midnight. The race started and M. Rossi bolted past me, making a deafening roar that was unlike the original FXX. We began rocketing down the freeway, and I found it almost impossible to keep up with his car. It was superior almost, in every possible way. Not only that, but for some reason I couldn't rewind either, which only made the race seem unfairly challenging. But in the very few instances I got ahead of him, there seemed to be something noticeably different about his behavior. Instead of trying to ram my back wheel, he simply slowed down and tried to avoid all possible contact with my car, only to resume accelerating past me again. It was almost as if he finally became aware of his wrongdoings and started to atone for his actions by racing with precision and care instead of using brute force. I restarted the race one more time. My plan was to intercept him at the curvature on the freeway just beyond the hill. When we got to the slight curve, I managed to get to position on my car just perfectly so that it would go around the curve without losing any speed. I honed in on Rossi, drafting behind him. Now was my chance. I slowly approached him from the right and swung the front wheels of my car to the left. The front bumper of my car collided with his back wheel, and he started to spin uncontrollably. It was here on in that the game did something completely unexpected. The game went into a slow-motion cutscene where Rossi was spinning out of control and inevitably spun onto an oncoming edge of a guardrail that split the freeway, and on the exit on the right-hand side, the driver's side of the car aligned perfectly towards the guardrail and collided into it at 170 miles per hour, almost like a cutscene straight out of Burnout. The car crumpled, bending around the rail with shards of glass thrown everywhere. It looked spectacular at first, until I noticed that fucking blood, was dripping from the driver's head. The most disturbing thing for me wasn't the blood that was being shown, but the way the side of the car's body bent into his torso, as if the side of the body was being squashed by a steamroller. His malformed body was enough to confirm that he was certainly dead. Not just a little dead, but certainly dead. It was at this point that the anxiety from my childhood came back to haunt me. I'd never seen such a graphic depiction of this magnitude, of somebody being killed from a street racing accident, let alone in a video game. The cutscene ended and the race continued as normal, but I noticed his car was still there. I spun around and drove to the crash site. Puzzled and disturbed, at first I wanted to take a photo of the wreckage to show everybody the Easter egg, but I just couldn't do it. Thoughts were going around my head. This may be the first and last time anybody will ever discover this Easter egg until possibly many years from now, if not ever. But then again, taking a photo of a wrecked Ferrari FXX with blood-dripping malformed corpse and uploading it to the storefront? Am I crazy? Instead, I went back to the race, and retained some hope that I could actually finish the race in first place. It didn't last for long though, as I still felt queasy that I had just killed M. Rossi. It also didn't help when the announcer on the radio declared that nobody from the Horizon Festival has died this year. I finished the race and received undeniably the biggest prize in the game, 52,754,145,000 credits. Enough to purchase every car in the game excluding VIP cars, barn finds, and downloadable content. Considering that it was a showdown, as expected, I also won M. Rossi's car. However, the car had noticeable differences that freaked me out. The right-hand side of the car was bent back to shape, but it was still crumpled. The right headlight didn't work, and the glass from the windscreen still shattered. It didn't take long for me to notice that there were drops of coagulated blood on the hood of the car, a mark of shame. I returned to free roam and noticed that the time period was dusk. Everything just looked slightly darker than before. The radio was permanently switched off and I couldn't change channels. It got even more bizarre when I tried to play my own music on my hard drive, and the track was playing but no sound came out. I revved the engines, and like last time, the deafening roar violently erupted from the engine. The car was amazing! Its acceleration was unprecedented, and easily had the best handling and braking in the entire game. What also caught me by surprise was that it was an X-Class car, which I never thought existed in Forza Horizon until now. I drove around South Beaumont and noticed that the sun was setting. Everywhere was a ghost town. There was no sign of traffic anywhere, and in the distance there was no fireworks or skylights of the Horizon Festival. I attempted to fast travel to the festival by accessing the map, but I was prohibited from accessing it since the message box stated that the Horizon Festival has closed down due to an unexpected event. We apologize for this inconvenience. So instead, I drove all the way to the festival, and by this point, everything was getting a lot darker, and I never put so much dependence on my headlight until now. When I got to the festival, nobody was in sight. No crowds, no rivals, traffic, nothing. The whole place seemed abandoned and rusted. The signs were stripped and the lights broken and torn down in the middle of the festival ring. There were vertical piles of cars of all shapes, sizes, and classes crumpled flat on top of each other. It seemed that what was once bright and vibrant has now become nothing more than an enigma, a place devoid of life and color, consumed by darkness. I decided to drive away, but while doing so, I started to hear a song that was coming from the loudspeakers of the festival. It sounded like the loudspeakers withered with age. As the noises were rather blurred and distorted, I couldn't recall what the song was, but I knew for certain that it wasn't any of the tracks from the 3 radio stations in Horizon. Instead, it was music that was commonly played during a memorial service. Eventually, everything about this Easter egg just was breaking me psychologically. I had no idea what was going on, nor what was going to eventually happen to my main character. I found myself wandering around Carson, uncertain of where to go or what to do, and even the entire town was abandoned. Some of the houses ended up in charcoal ruins, and trees and lampposts were knocked over. After nearly a whole minute of wandering, the music stopped and was replaced by a soft static from the radio. The static was then abruptly cut off by a recognizable female voice. "If you've got cash burning a hole in your pocket, why not visit the auto show? We have cars for high rollers like you." Her presence was so unfitting in the current situation, it wasn't funny. Until every 20 seconds, she said exactly the same thing. It became apparent that her voice was being looped on a voice recorder. I went back to the festival and accessed the auto show. All the cars in the auto show were missing except for one. The car's model name was simply titled An Invitation, and the rendering of the car was completely invisible, with a 0 credit price tag. I bought the car, and instead of giving me the message of, "Would you like to return to free roam?" it instead sent me straight to free roam back in the FXX I started off with. With one exception. Something appeared in the message center. "Head over to the freeway, southwest of Carson. We're holding a memorial for a friend." I drove past Carson onto the freeway, and came onto the crash site where Rossi was killed. The entire freeway was blocked with flowers, cards, and photos of him and his family, all lying across the roads. At the side of the guardrail was a white cross and a racing helmet with Rossi's initials. I entered photo mode once more to take a closer look at the gravesite and zoomed in. The plaque on the cross was etched in black writing. "The unstoppable Marco Rossi, a beloved father and a racing legend, atoned for his mistakes, paid in full, will be sadly missed by everybody. Rest in peace, October 23rd, 2012. Despite previous efforts, I took a photo of the plaque, saved it, and attempted to upload it to the storefront. While I was doing this, I still felt sick and constantly bitter about what I was doing. After all, I killed him. I didn't mean to kill him, but I am still responsible for it. I uploaded the photo to the storefront, and after several seconds the message came up. File uploaded. The screen then cut to black. "You murdered him, didn't you?" Out of nowhere, the text displayed in the middle of the screen. There was no sound coming from the speakers. "He atoned for his actions, raced alongside you, and this is how you repay him?" The nausea kept building up inside. I knew that the ramifications that I had caused were catastrophic. After witnessing what had happened to the entire world, now it's your turn. The screen then cut to the starting line of the Goliath race. Everything was now back to normal. The traffic was back, the lighting was reset to its default, and the time period was still set to midnight. The race began. Except, I was the only person in the race. It took me a while until I realized that Rossi was behind me, driving the CCX-R that I previously owned. I realized that it was now my turn to experience Rossi's fate. I drove as fast as I could down the freeway over the hill, performing the same maneuver around the curve as before. In order to avoid hitting the guardrail's edge of the lane split, I placed my car very close to the left so that my car would be protected by the guardrail alongside. As Rossi was getting closer, I had to defend myself. I nudged Rossi out of the way just slightly, and he suddenly braked and stopped. I kept rocketing forward at 283 miles per hour without a moment's hesitation of stopping. Without warning, the traffic ahead formed a wall as the cars began to change lanes. The change was so quick that even my reaction time and the car's high braking stats couldn't avoid it. It smashed the side of another car at an angle, and I found myself tumbling in the air, smashed the invisible wall above the guardrail and landed upside down, crushing the driver's skull. The traffic disappeared, skylights vanished, along with the moon and stars, and distorted music in the distance played. Once again, the world returned to its darker form, until the only thing that could be seen was the helpless wreckage lying on the road. The screen went black again. "You were given one last chance. Now it's too late. He crossed the finish line." The screen came back to the wreckage and the music stopped. Momentarily, the eyes of the crowd started to emerge from the darkness around the wreckage, staring at it. I expected the expressions of their eyes would look angry and intimidating, after what I'd previously did to Rossi. However, when their faces started to emerge, every person had a disturbing smile on their face. Some of them even started to laugh hysterically. The laughing became even more sinister, and the faces of the crowd started to replace the darkness that surrounded the wreckage. This persisted for roughly 30 seconds, and the screen cut to black once more. And you never will. The Xbox 360 automatically shut down, and I was too frightened to do anything at this point, as I spent the rest of the night trying to comprehend everything that had just unfolded. It was a bright summer morning the next day, and after many hours of meditating under psychological trauma, I turned on my 360. Everything worked fine. Forza Horizon was still in the disk drive, and as much as I was eager to banish the disc and the game forever, I decided to play the game one last time. All that remained was a black screen and nothing more. I removed all the data from my hard drive, reinstalled the game, and yet again, I was faced with the same black screen. I went through the collection of games in the drawer next to my TV. I put in Forza Motorsport 4, black screen. Moved on to Motorsport 3, black screen. I put in Motorsport 2, again, black screen. Lastly, I put in Motorsport 1. What did I expect? A black screen. I was hesitant to break each of these discs in half since my sanity started to wear thin from all this, but then I suddenly remembered. I still have my original Xbox in the antiques closet. I thought maybe I should try playing Motorsport 1 from there. I set up the original Xbox and started Forza 1. It started up normally, and initially, breathed a sigh of relief as the loading screen came up. As I was about to start the race, the screen flickered, cut to black, and a message appeared. The race cannot be played due to a runtime error. An unexpected event has occurred. The player does not exist. I got my 3DS at launch, 25th March 2011, sitting in its blue box as shiny as any new handheld. It truly was a beautiful sight. I turned it on and sighed with pleasure as the home music played. Needless to say, I spent many happy hours playing with it. There were certainly enough things pre-installed on it: face raiders, a 3D camera and editor, 3DS sound, which sort of made it into an iPod. Everything there kept me happy. Except there was one feature that kind of annoyed me: StreetPass Plaza, specifically Quest. You know that game you play to get hats for your Mii to show off to anyone you StreetPass? My problem was that there was no one to StreetPass. The 3DS was really unpopular at first, and I was forced to use the animals to fight all the monsters. It quickly turned into a grind fest as they were all pitifully low in level. They also ran off the second the monsters tried to attack. Cowards. I turned StreetPass on every time I went out, but found no one else with a 3DS. Then the price drop happened. I was really peeved at first, but then I was silenced by that flashing green light. Nintendo cutting the price meant that more people were going to buy the handheld. I went from 0 StreetPasses to 3 every day. It was incredible to see other gamers pop up on my screen and send little messages. The best benefit of all, however, was definitely in StreetPass Quest. Every time I StreetPassed the same person, their level went up, so dungeons became easier and easier. Within weeks, I had cleared the game twice and gotten all the hats. Job done. I quickly forgot about the entire thing and left it alone for months. I was reminded of the game again when Nintendo decided to make a sequel to it, StreetPass Quest 2. More hats! I quickly enlisted the help of my old StreetPass friends and got to work, only to be defeated straight away. What? When did it become so difficult? Soon enough, the game had reverted back to being impossible to finish. I focused instead on Puzzle Swap, the other game in StreetPass Plaza. Making 3D pictures was fun, but I couldn't quite forget about Quest 2. Several weeks later, I was sort of looking through the stream of StreetPasses. It had become an almost boring activity by now. Name, message, into the plaza. I barely bothered looking. The last StreetPasser popped up. That was weird. I'd never seen a Mii with gray skin before. Maybe it was an update I missed. And the message was far over the 16-character limit. Just a strong string of die, 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 die over and over again. I shrugged, put it down to a glitch, and left it to go into the plaza. Put it down to a glitch, and left it go into the plaza. Out of curiosity, I looked at its stats, and like every other Mii, this one was genderless. No hair either. The eyes were only the only significant part. Huge black dots cover the top half of the face. No nose was present, and the mouth was nothing more than an eerie smile. The bio information was blank, even down to the name of the Mii and its creator. As I exited, I noticed something which grabbed my interest. The info said that I StreetPass as Mii. Question mark times? It took a few moments for me to figure out how I could exploit this. The music of StreetPass Quest 2 played as a nameless Mii moved around in a position. It raised its swords and eyes flashed for a brilliant red. Instead of the normal message, die, 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 popped up. exactly the same as a Mii's greeting message. Normally when a monster was defeated, it did a little animation and puffed out of existence. When the nameless Mii struck the monster, its health bar had vanished. A screech burst from the speakers and fell to the floor, except the monster didn't vanish. The nameless Mii walked over its body and moved on. I was getting a bit nervous by now, but I'd never gotten past the first room before, so I went along with it, confident that it was just that I could just turn the 3DS off if anything went really wrong. The same process continued throughout every room, even in places with multiple monsters. The nameless Mii was never attacked. Instead, the message "monster," super ellipses, pretty much, appeared, and then it was the Mii's turn again. Finally, I reached the last room. I defeated the first enemy easily, and the second one stepped over its body. A worried look crossed the nameless Mii's face. It struck, but this time the health bar barely went down. The monster struck, and it fled, sword falling. I huffed irritably. So the nameless Mii wasn't perfect? No matter, I'd just try again. Since it had been able to take down any monster instantly, I'd never need the other option, magic. The type depended on the color of the Mii's clothes. The one's clothes were gray. I had no idea what they did. I found out all too quickly. The nameless Mii raised its arms and the entire room became foggy. All I could see now were the avatar's black eyes. They flashed a malicious red for a moment, and there was a loud, pain-filled screech. When the fog cleared, all that was left of the monster was a pile of bloody limbs. Bloody fucking limbs. Anyways, the Mii stood there, smiling, as the prisoner I had to free walked over. It was just my own Mii with a wig. She stared in horror at it, then looked at me with a default expression for sadness. The screen turned gray once more. "Wait!" I yelled. "Die, die, 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 die." When everything was clear again, the monster's limbs had been joined by one of those Mii's. The nameless Mii began to look at me, and it turned the 3DS off. It was too much at this point. I threw the handheld to the foot of my bed and fell asleep. Okay. The next morning, I was woken by a loud thumping on my door. I sat up and watched in disbelief as a sword smashed through the door. My heart thumped. My vision was dimmed by the gray fog filling the room. Die, 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 die. So how were those shitpastas? Interesting, I guess. Now, the thing I gotta say is out of both of them, obviously M. Rossi was the much better one. But by how much? I don't know. But looking at M. Rossi first, I compare it to I Hate You or COD Black Hell Ops, or rather creepypastas where they take a facet of the game and properly turn it into something worth fearing. Now, why is this different? Well, there's nothing creepy to it. Now, for those who don't know, M. Rossi is an AI driver in the Forza Motorsport line of games, and the AI is considered to be oddly ruthless in its driving pattern, and people who hate M. Rossi hate the AI for a good reason, even starting hate groups for it. I guess that part of the creepypasta is not weird, although it still remains pretty damn funny. But moving on, what did this do wrong? It's not just cliches, and, I'll be honest with you, the blood wasn't mentioned like 9,001 times or anything, and the gore was used as a descriptor rather than to induce fear, even if your definition of considering someone dead is still in question when looking at their flattened body. Whatever, to each their own, right? What kills this is the fact that it really tries to be this dramatic, creepy sort of tale, and honestly other creepypastas do this exact same thing as well, and at this point, I've just sort of snapped when I see it. It's facepalm worthy, and it takes you out of the whole mood in general. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't be done properly, but whenever it's done, really, it always takes you out of the mood. What I really would have loved to see is some deterioration, or even something meta, rather, like Console Me, a creepypasta I actually really liked. And if this borrowed some inspiration from that, it would be really cool, because it doesn't really have many of the tropes, that I would associate with it. But it also really doesn't have substance, so with some major retooling on how it's told, I think it could be really nice if it doesn't stick to this dramatic retelling of M. Rossi's family and whatnot, but as it stands, it really doesn't leave a good taste in the mouth. Moving on, StreetPass Genocide is like Burn Baby Burn territory, almost. I think even crossing that territory. Again, the theme of today's episode is the use of events in the games and building mystery around them to induce true fear. Here we see an early adopter for the Nintendo 3DS. Now, for those of you who don't know what the 3DS really has, it has built-in games. Simplistic, mind you, but they utilize the StreetPass feature. Basically, it's when two 3DS systems love each other very much. They get to know each other more and more until they eventually trade a slice of data that the user of the system can view. The data consists of names, a me, and a message. These downloaded characters can then be used in the internal puzzle and quest games. So all that really happens here is a fucking me with red eyes shows up and holds on, hold on, you might die of shock here, hold on. The message die 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 shows up. And basically his character buttfucks everything in the quest game and, dies or gets scared in the end, then fuses at the end, shows up at the home, killing the protagonist. It ends, alright, right there. Like, it happens so fast, it's like lightning, and it isn't even close to the word scary. It's a lot like Call of Duty Black Hell Ops, aka Bootman Bill's Escapades, which, that was much better because the phenomenon was at least very contextual, even though, it was also a shitpasta. But, it had other tropes that we knocked on it for. Hell, even Sonic.exe, which I hated, and it also has similar tropes to this, is better, and I can't believe I even said that. All in all, this really has to be rewritten, or rather expanded, and given more build-up so that it can actually scare rather than give us almost nothing, because the idea of a really creepy, mysterious character has shown up in other things. We've seen it with the Man Without a Gamer Tag, and it can be done well. It really can. But, you just have to work at it. You can't just shoehorn those things in. The idea of a rogue element running around street passing in your 3DS is actually a genuinely creepy idea, and I look forward to it. But, as far as it stands right here, it doesn't really work out. But, yeah, so this has been March's Shitpastas. Please tell me in the comments below which one was better. Well, what would you rate them, and what would you change to make them better? If you like what you saw, then like, comment, and subscribe. So this has been another episode of Shitpastas. Until the next discharge of shitty creepypastas, if you're wondering what game I'm playing on screen right now, this is Gran Turismo 5 for the PlayStation 3. It's a real racing simulator, if you will, like Forza. In fact, this is the OG. Lots of cars, nice track selection. But yeah, if you ever wonder what game I'm playing on the screen, I will put in the description below, key it in the beginning, and occasionally give a mention at the end. But yeah, that being said, this is me, Mudahar, and I am out.